Thank you all for being here. A big turnout. Obviously, everybody is excited. There's a lot to cover. The week, in the middle of the week, began with the disastrous news of the bombing of the Weizmann Institute and the Soroka Hospital in the Negev, Beersheva. We covered it Thursday, so we're covering it less now. But as I said, there'll be about 10-minute overlap for those in our Sunday program who weren't with us on Thursday. Here we go.
Of conflict in the region, the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel suffered significant damage after being struck by an Iranian missile. The impact, while thankfully causing no casualties, devastated multiple buildings on the prestigious scientific campus. This event is not just a physical blow, but a massive disruption to years of scientific research.
We were hit by an Iranian missile attack that was early Sunday morning. Several of our buildings were damaged. 2 of our buildings were directly hit. Luckily for us, there were no casualties, so there were nobody in the buildings. The buildings were empty, and I think that's the most important thing. None of our students, postdocs, faculty, researchers, nobody was hurt.
Labs housing sensitive experiments and biological samples were hit directly, leading to irreversible losses. For scientists who had spent months, sometimes years, gathering data and conducting studies, the destruction is a serious setback.
We did our best to save as much of the samples as we could from the labs, from the buildings, while we were fighting the fire, for example. Clearly, a lot has been destroyed.
A tremendous amount of cancer research is done at the Weizmann Institute.
Recover from this, because some of these experiments really took a lot of time, and we collected tissues. For example, experiment that ran for half a year or 1 year, and you collect the entire process, you collect the tissues from, and you wanted to analyze all these tissue in one day, and you realize that there are no tissues. Everything is gone.
While emergency teams worked to salvage what they could, the loss of long-term experimental samples and research materials means some projects will never be completed. The institution estimates it may take a year or more to restore full research capacity. Beyond the immediate damage, the strike brings forward a broader concern: how ongoing geopolitical tensions can endanger scientific progress and cooperation.
I would estimate that it will take us about a year to get into a full gear of research and with everything working again.
Correspondent Trey Yinks, live on the ground in Tel Aviv. Hi, Trey.
Martha, good afternoon. Early this morning, Iran launched yet another barrage of ballistic missiles into Israel, targeting both residential areas and a hospital. Here's what it looked like when we arrived at that medical facility. Black smoke billows from the Soroka Hospital in southern Israel. An Iranian missile hit the campus this morning just after 7 a.m., sending shockwaves through the halls. Suddenly, we heard the explosion, Juma Abu Kush says. We knew it's very close to us. Debris fell from the ceiling. Throughout the day, patients were evacuated to nearby hospitals as others were discharged if their condition warranted. First responders surveyed the damage as political leaders came by to voice their opposition to the bombing.
The Ayatollah regime targeted this morning is a hospital with helpless, sick people. This is an extreme war.
This guy is Amir Ohana. He's the Speaker of the Knesset, equivalent to Mike Johnson, who's the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Crime, and they will bear the consequences.
What's also important to note is that this is a place that there are both Israelis and Palestinians coming for care. There are Bedouins. When you walk around the compound of this hospital, there are still people in other areas. There are men wearing kippahs and women wearing hijabs. And it's an example of how this part of Israel lives, how they live side by side, and how there is a future. Martha, one piece of good news. Fox News has just learned that a baby was born at the Soroka Medical Center this afternoon following that ballistic missile attack. The baby is said to be healthy. Back to you.
That is hopeful. Thank you very much, Trey. Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
This was a video created for fundraising by Soroka Medical Center, telling their story. Again, what's so important is to recognize all the anti-Semites in the world, nobody condemned pretty much the bombing of Soroka the other day. By contrast, when Israel has bombed in Gaza, Hamas headquarters that are deliberately created in tunnels immediately underneath hospitals, forcing Israel to choose what to do about the human beings who are being used as human shields to protect Hamas people, or where Hamas people actually are based in the hospitals above ground. And Israel decides these are such high-value targets, we have got to take them out. And then there's damage to the hospital, and everyone, New York Times, Washington Post, ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, CNN, MSNBC, Russia, Ukraine, well, not Ukraine so much, but France and England and Ireland, and everybody's busy condemning Israel. And they don't want to hit the hospital. And by contrast, no one's got a word to say here. No one except America. So this was Soroka, a major research center as well. And I told you Thursday, there's a guy named Barsimentov, I forgot his first name.
Soroka Medical Center.
A guy named Barsimentov, who's the Director General of the Ministry of Health, had given the order the day before to move the surgery center from one floor of the hospital elsewhere. And as a result, he personally is credited with saving as many as 30 to 40 lives. The center of where the explosion took place was exactly jam-packed the day before, and by Barsimentov's order, was completely evacuated the day of the bombing. And he's a national hero for that.
Was founded 63 years ago to provide healthcare solutions for the residents of southern Israel and meet the needs of the diverse population living in the Negev, which constitutes 60% of the country's land area. Today, Soroka is the second largest hospital in the country and serves over 1.2 million people. Soroka stands at the forefront of science, clinical research, and technology. Its devoted staff work around the clock to provide advanced, high-quality care, always placing patients and their needs first. Since 1959, Soroka has developed from a small hospital into a leading university medical center that is a strategic asset to the State of Israel. One of the country's major medical centers and a vital component of the Israeli health system, Soroka has a tradition of close collaboration with the Israel Defense Forces and plays a critically important role in treating a large number of soldiers and residents in emergency situations. With your support, we will fulfill our promise to the people of the Negev.
And they will rebuild. May take a year, but they will rebuild. And much has been lost and much will be replaced.
Just to mention that I'm right beneath the European hospital.
Just by contrast now, Arabs. So there was a lot of noise about a week ago.
Just to mention that I'm right beneath the European hospital. Right.
There's something in Gaza called the European hospital because the Europeans paid for it. And what the Hamas did is right underneath that hospital, they put a tunnel where the Hamas command centers, central quarters were.
Above me, we can find the emergency room of the European hospital in Khan Yunis. As you can see, we found here a lot of, in this infrastructure, a lot of funds, a lot of money, cash used by Hamas, of course not for the people, but for terror activities, weapons, and of course the command and control of Hamas, including the heads of Hamas, Mohammed Sinwar and Shabane, the head of the Rafah brigade. You can see here the cynical use that Hamas is making or doing with funds. We found here lots of ammunition, cash money, and of course, as I mentioned before, their commanders of Hamas, the archi-terrorist Shabane and Mohammed Sinwar himself.
Mohammed Sinwar is the brother of Yahya, was the brother of Yahya Sinwar, and became the new commander of the Hamas after Israel eliminated Yahya. Mohammed was underneath that hospital in the command center. Israel knew it, and they took him out. That necessitated damage to the hospital building. France, Macron, and all of these horrible, bastards, condemned Israel for it. Start talking about that being a war crime. A war crime is shooting at Soroka Hospital when there's not an IDF person in sight. There's no military purpose. They're just doing research and saving lives. Important for us to know, even if the rest of the world doesn't know. The reason we gather every Sunday is so that we're prepared for the rest of the week to talk to people who ask, and for our own selves to know what's going on and what the truth is. There's no sound on for a moment. The first part is your sound is okay. It's just quiet video showing you what Israel found after they bombed and killed Mohammed Sinwar. They're showing you how underneath the hospital, everything was built. So we've seen that before on Thursday. Just wanted to share it. Here we go.
One of the Iranian missiles struck against Haifa on Friday afternoon.
On Friday, some of us did not get the news. We were busy with Shabbat. As Iran was busy bombing Haifa, they took out two of the most classic, antique, ancient mosques in Israel. So they ended up taking out two mosques, not on purpose, shooting randomly wherever the thing lands, and they actually took out two mosques. I have often said it is my belief that I have no basis, no textual basis for this, just pure supposition. It is my belief that when Mashiach comes, we know that when the Messiah comes, he's going to rebuild the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And people wonder, how's that going to happen in terms of logistics? I mean, there's the Dome of the Rock, there's the mosque there. And I believe there's a pretty good chance that the Arabs will end up just like this, blowing up their own mosque on the Dome of the Rock. That they'll be shooting and they'll hit that thing, and that giant colander, spaghetti colander, will get blown up, and that will clear the way. I really believe it. And here we see they actually blow up their own mosque, not even on purpose. Two of them. Continue.
And hit the city's oldest and also the city's second oldest mosque in Haifa downtown. The strikes damaged the Masjid al-Saghir, built in 1761, and the Al-Jarina Grand Mosque of Haifa, built in 1775.
So when Iranian shot the missile, they don't ask you if you are Muslim, if you are Jewish, if you are Christian, if you are anything. They attack everyone in this country.
You would think the news of the Islamic Republic of Iran's missiles hitting two ancient mosques in Israel would be the fun news headlines. But the mainstream media seems to have other agendas and interests.
So this is where you really get to war crimes. There's just obviously they have no justification. Just shoot with their eyes, like pin the tail on the duck.
Beersheva.
You hear in the news about how, on the one hand, Ocasio and the squad, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, are attacking Trump for what he's been doing, helping out with the blowing up of, with taking down the Iranian missiles and what he did the other day. And you also hear idiots on the right wing. So both sides, it's actually developed. They've actually developed a new political science term for it. It's referred to as horseshoe politics. Horseshoe politics. You know how a horseshoe is like a U, and the tip of the horseshoe on one side is the extreme left, and you go all the way over to the extreme right, and before you know it, the extreme left and the extreme right are together on the same horseshoe. So you have horses' asses like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson, who are side by side with Ocasio and Ilhan Omar and Bernie Sanders, condemning Trump and others for fighting Iran. And what they don't understand, because I wrote an article, just published it the other day, in which I referred to how the ones on the right call themselves America First. They're actually America Second and hate first. And their hate is so deep. She's an anti-Semite, MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Don't have a lot of time on it now. She's an anti-Semite. There's a lot of documentation on it by now. Tucker as well. And these people hate Jews so much that they don't understand that it could be well argued that American boys should not have their boots on the ground in Afghanistan to change a regime. It's just going to end up Taliban anyway. And to try to change Iraq when Iraq and Iran are killing 500,000 of each other. Leave them alone and let them do God's work on their own. Or when you go and you send people to change other regimes, that's foolish and dangerous and all bad stuff. Versus when you're dealing with Iran, they're openly saying death to America. And America is next after Israel. You see, in order to develop and to drop these bombs, and nuclear bombs, they have to be attached to certain kinds of aircraft. Iran has been building ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missile, to which those bombs are attached. ICBM, intercontinental. Now, they don't need an ICBM to attack Israel, just as Israel does not need an ICBM to attack them. They're in the same neighborhood, give or take Syria and one or two spots. Those ICBMs are to deliver the nukes intercontinental to North America and drop them in major American cities. And what the MTGs and the Tucker Carlsons don't understand is if you leave them alone, you one day will have, not only do you have North Korea to worry about, and Russia and China, but all three of them are crazy, but they have a survival instinct. None of them really wants to go to kingdom come. Iran is different. Those guys are ready to go to kingdom come if they can take you with them. And that's what they miss, how dangerous those places are and how America first requires not getting involved on the boots on the ground situation, but taking out things that represent a threat to the United States. And it's this one guy who is able to stare them all down on both sides, the left and the right. And he makes up his mind he's going to do it. And I mean, God bless this man. As much as he makes you crazy, he absolutely drives you crazy, but he's a gift from God. Thank God that he survived that assassination attempt. And the other one also. Maybe that's the reason he survived it. We'll never know. Well, we'll eventually all know. There's all that talk about innocent Arab civilians, like in Gaza, so that when Israel is killing out Hamas, they're killing out the human shields by accident. And then we hear that here are innocent Arab civilians in Lebanon during a wedding. As they're dancing at the wedding, they're extending their arms and their glasses of wine, toasting the Iranian missiles that they know are on the way to neighboring Israel. Okay, we covered this Thursday. For those of you that weren't there, this is the price of delaying. This is the price of Tucker Carlson and of Marjorie Taylor Greene and those on the right, Thomas Massey, who knows if he's even on the right, and those on the left, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, the whole Democrat, 3/4 of the Democrat Party. This idea of let's not attack it. Let's leave it alone. Don't bother it. It'll go away. Let's maintain peace in our time. Neville Chamberlain, 1936, meets with Adolf Hitler. Hitler has taken Czechoslovakia. The question is, will they force Hitler to get out of Czechoslovakia, give it back? And a deal is made. In return for Europe, saying we will be okay with you taking Czechoslovakia and we won't fight it. Hitler says, in return for leaving me alone, I promise you no more war. Peace in our time. And Chamberlain, the Prime Minister of England, comes back to England. Well, you'll see. There we go. First part has no sound. I say this because sometimes you're wondering, are you losing sound? Look at those swastikas all over, side by side with Union Jacks. And who's arriving? I guess that's a German. And they're showing us that the Germans have arrived for the meeting. I think. And Pathé is a British company, and in 1930s, 20s, before people had televisions, you would go to the movies every week. Everybody went to the movies. There was no TV. You paid a quarter or whatever the equivalent is in England. And before the movie, just as nowadays, they shower you with 30 minutes of commercials of upcoming movies, in those days, they would shower you with a video like this of the past week's news. A newsreel, it would be called. And this is a British newsreel. You can tell in the pronunciation and the playing of the of God Save the King. Here we go. The guy waving his hat is Neville Chamberlain, Prime Minister of England.
Down the bright, straight road towards a new understanding in Europe. And so at Hitler's Munich headquarters, the agreement that has made the biggest headlines since the armistice. Let no man say that too high a price has been paid for the peace of the world until he has searched his own soul and found himself willing to risk war and the lives of those nearest and dearest to him. Let no man criticize the bargain that the statesmen of Britain and France have struck until he has attempted to add up the total price that might have had to be paid for any other settlement, a price in death and destruction. That price will not be paid. There will be...
In other words, we're going to sell out the Czechoslovakians, and it might make you feel uncomfortable, but now you know that by not confronting the problem, but backing away from it, you will have peace. 1936. Put it back on.
Peace. It's the greatest diplomatic triumph of modern time. The scene changes to London, as Downing Street expresses the nation's gratitude also to the lady who shares the Prime Minister's hopes and fears when Mrs. Chamberlain comes out for a walk in the park. And the Prime Minister comes home, home to an empire filled with joy and relief, home to a welcome that he will never forget.
And none of us ever will forget. 85 years later, we will never forget this moment. This is the moment that by backing away from confronting the evil.
That the settlement of the Czechoslovakian problem, which has now been achieved, is, in my view, only the prelude to a larger settlement in which all Europe may find peace.
3 years later, August 1st, 1939, Hitler marches into Poland and effectively World War II begins.
This morning, I had another talk with the German Chancellor, Herr Hitler. And here is the paper which bears his name upon it as well as mine. Some of you perhaps have already heard what it contains, but I would just like to read it to you. We, the German Führer and Chancellor, and the British Prime Minister have had a further meeting today and are agreed in recognizing that the question of Anglo-German relations is of the first importance for the two countries and for Europe. We regard the agreement signed last night and the Anglo-German naval agreement as symbolic of the desire of our two peoples never to go to war with one another again. We are resolved that the method of consultation shall be the method adopted to deal with any other questions that may concern our two countries, and we are determined to continue our efforts to remove possible sources of difference and thus to contribute to assure the peace of Europe.
From Heston, a triumphal progress as Mr. Chamberlain drives to report immediately to His Majesty the King at Buckingham Palace. And in this...
This is another way to handle it. This was Menachem Begin in 1981, seeing a situation, Iraq building a nuclear reactor under enormous pressure throughout the entire world. Don't do anything. Don't make the situation worse. We can have peace in our time if you, through nice negotiations. And Begin did what is now known in Israel as the Begin Doctrine. The Begin doctrine is we will not allow any Arab country to acquire nuclear weapons, no matter what. They start by singing Begin Melech Yisrael, Chai V'Kayam, the famous David Melech Yisrael song.
שאנחנו הרסנו אותו עד היסוד. החליט הממשל האמריקני לא לשלוח לנו ביום השישי מחר 4 מטוסים F-16.
That's Ronald Reagan declared an embargo of 4 F-16s that the very next day were supposed to go to Israel. So when we remember back to how bad Jimmy Carter and Obama and Biden and that whole bunch of them, there's an inclination to say, at least there was Reagan. It is important to remember that Reagan embargoed Israel the very day that Israel took out those nuclear reactors in Iraq, and that the following year, after Shatila Sabra, he so strongly condemned Israel as being unable to properly handle Arab terrorists in a sensible way, that he sent the United States Marines into Lebanon to show Israel how to do it. And soon enough, 241 Marines were blown to death by Hezbollah, and Reagan ran. Reagan and the Marines, following their orders, they ran back to the United States. They fled the scene. Israel does not have the luxury of being able to run away. Israel must take a stand. She has no choice.
אני רוצה שתדעו את כל האמת. האיש אשר דרש בתוקף למנוע מאיתנו כל עזרה כלכלית וצבאית, להפסיק כל אספקה, לא היה אחר אלא שר ההגנה מר ויינברגר.
Caspar Weinberger was the Secretary of Defense and was a Jewish apostate. The name Weinberger, he was Jewish and he converted to Christianity, and his entire public life was anti-Israel and anti-Jewish interests, as if to say, I'll do whatever I have to persuade people around me that I really am a Christian now, and I'm no longer Jewish.
במסירות נלחם למען עם ישראל וארץ ישראל. שר ההגנה דרש להפסיק כל אספקה לנו, אבל זה לא ניתן לו. ואני רוצה לשאול אותו מפתח תקווה על דעת המוני בית ישראל. האם פעם שמעת על 1.5 מיליון ילדים קטנים יהודיים שהובלו לתאי הגזים והופעל נגדם הרעל ציקלון B? סדאם חוסיין, העריץ הדמים הזה, אשר במו ידיו רצח את טובי ידידיו כדי להשתלט על עיראק, הכין בשביל הילדים שלנו את הרעל של רדיואקטיביות שתצא מפצצות אטומיות, והיה מטיל אותן בלי רחמים על תל אביב, על פתח תקווה ועל ירושלים ועל חיפה כדי לחסל את העם היהודי בארצו. את מי אתה בא להעניש? לא את המרצח שהכין פצצות אטומיות, אלא את המתגונן אשר השמיד את הכור הארור הזה. ועכשיו אנחנו יכולים לומר לילדינו החביבים, אתם תולידו בנים בארץ ישראל. For simple logic, we decided to act now, before it is too late.
In Jerusalem, the attack was celebrated.
Such a small country and so many enemies around us. Right? We won't do it, nobody will do it for us.
The expression in Hebrew is that before the time comes to kill you, you get them first, and I think that's where it was at. We have to fight for our living. We have no choice.
The international reaction was quite different.
This is NBC Nightly News.
Israel's bombing raid on that Iraqi atomic reactor is getting open praise in only one country this morning, Israel. From the rest of the world, condemnation.
Washington was not happy.
The United States government condemns the reported Israeli airstrike on the Iraq nuclear facility.
This was a real shock to the administration when it happened.
Secretary of State General Alexander Haig had been informed of the raid 3 hours after the attack. He was the one to break the news to President Ronald Reagan.
I just told him what the facts were. He was a very tranquil individual. He's not a fellow that immediately flew into what I call emotional reactions. He said, fine, and we'll have to discuss what we do about this.
Then, only 6 months in office, it would be the president's first test in the Middle East.
We had an emergency cabinet meeting the following morning. Well, then the president went around the table starting at his left. And with one single exception, they were all in favor of strong recriminations. And when he got to me, I said, Mr. President, when history expends itself, you'll be on your knees thanking God Israel did what it did. And he got up and stormed out of the room and went into his office.
Reagan was furious. Israel, it seemed, took the law into its own hands and misused American technology to illegally, preemptively bomb the property of another sovereign nation.
One of the early questions was how many people were killed, were there many people killed in this effort? And we rather quickly learned that there was only one person killed, and that the Israelis had planned it so that no one would be killed, but there was one French scientist working hard on a Sunday afternoon.
Here at the State Department, there is one overarching concern, and that is that the Arab world understand that the U.S. was not involved in the Israeli attack.
The important thing to know is that Jews under Begin did what they had to do. He did what he had to do, even if it meant no friends left at all. And about 3 months later, Reagan came to realize that Reagan, was wrong, and that Begin had, in fact, saved the Western world. And this is how we know that Reagan changed his mind. September 9, 1981, just a few months later, a toast. Reagan a toast to Begin.
Gentlemen, Prime Minister Begin, it's a genuine pleasure to welcome you to the White House this evening. I should say welcome you back, because Prime Minister is no stranger to this room. As a matter of fact, I have a funny feeling that he may have dined here more often than I have. But be that as it may, once again, he's an honored guest. But this time, Nancy and I have the privilege, and we're delighted. I'm not sure whether you saw it or not, Mr. Prime Minister, but in the play, Fiddler on the Roof,
always Fiddler on the Roof,
townspeople asked the rabbi if he had a proper blessing for the Tsar. And the rabbi answered, why, of course. May God bless and keep the Tsar far away from us. Well, Prime Minister Begin, as you know, the Jewish people have never been far away from sorrow and oppression during their long and troubled history. And now, I don't believe your own influence on Jewish history goes as far back as the time of the Tsars. Now, you understand that there wouldn't be anything wrong with that. You will hear no criticism of age tolerated in this house. Lately, I've been heartened to remember that Moses was 80 when God commissioned him for public service, and he lived to be 120. And Abraham was 100 and his wife Sarah 90 when they did something truly amazing. He survived to be 175. So, Mr. Prime Minister, you and I, we haven't even hit our full stride yet. But to be serious a moment, after our conversations today, very warm and productive, I'm convinced that we're on the way to the right road, that we really can draw closer to that golden age of peace, prosperity, and brotherhood. And reason, and I think this is clear, Providence has blessed us at this critical time with two leaders, one in Israel and one in Egypt, uniquely capable of the great decisions that are required. Prime Minister Begin, I remember reading in your book, White Nights, how as a young man being held inside Soviet prisons, you longed to return with your people to the Middle East. And even then you told your captors there would be plenty of room for the Arabs, for millions of Jews, and for peace. And you've been working ever since to make that dream come true. Though trained as a lawyer, you passed up the quiet life of a private attorney. From your earliest days, the spirit of freedom burned within you, leading you to make great personal sacrifices for the Jewish people. As a political inmate in those Soviet dungeons, you learned the horrors of totalitarian abuse. You fought against Hitler, and you spent your early adult years helping create a haven for your people in New Israel. Devoted to democratic traditions, you served as leader of your country's loyal opposition for nearly 30 years. Consistent in your views and skillful in presenting them, you were elected leader of a free people who recently reaffirmed their esteem for you. Called as a peacemaker, you boldly seized the opportunity for peace with
the point, of course, that everything is nice and friendly and we're all back on the same page. Begin did what had to be done, and God Almighty took it from there. And just as God Almighty hardened the heart of the Pharaoh in biblical times, in the book of Shmot, in the book of Exodus, so as not to let the Jews go, so that there would be 10 plagues and the revelation of God's outstretched arm and mighty hand, so it is that God softened Reagan's heart. Begin did what had to be done, and Iraq did not have nuclear weapons when America had the war in Kuwait against Saddam Hussein.
Man should inherit a throne.
And now we come to today.
Okay, we have a question in English, CNN.
A few days ago,
Iranian officials say they were targeting a military facility near here. What did you say to President Trump as he tries to make up his mind about whether to come in and support Israel, particularly at a time when we read that you have to ration some of your...
He's standing in a hot sun of Beersheva in the Negev, and I don't know who gave him the idea of wearing a black shirt in the hot sun.
President Trump will do what's best for America. I trust his judgment. He's a tremendous friend, a tremendous world leader, a tremendous friend of Israel and the Jewish people. And we will do what we have to do, and we are doing it. We are committed to destroying the nuclear threat, the threat of a nuclear annihilation against Israel. We're able to do it, and we, of course, will make our own determination. But I have to say that the partnership with the United States, the partnership with President Trump, with whom I speak to almost every day, is incredible. I think his resolve, his determination, and his clarity when he says Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And for that to take place, Iran cannot enrich uranium. It's as simple as that. He gave them the chance to do it through negotiations. They strung him along. You don't string along Donald Trump. He knows the game. And I think that we're both committed to making sure that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon, and they won't.
In your heart of hearts, is the United States going to come on board and help you with these strikes?
That's a decision for the president to make, but I can tell you that they're already helping a lot because they're participating in the protection of the skies over Israel and its cities with THAAD missile batteries that are in Israel, with Aegis ships that are on the shore of Israel, with their pilots that are fighting alongside our pilots to knock out drones. I think it's a remarkable cooperation.
And you see this hospital, what
can you tell people who see this kind of...
I think it says everything about Israel and about Iran. Israel is fighting to remove the nuclear and missile threat aimed at our annihilation.
We're now going to just pause, and we're going to acknowledge God, and we're going to pray to God with two Tehillim. First, Kuf Chaf Aleph. You know how it's done. First, it is read, and you recite it as well. 121.
שיר למעלות, אשא עיני אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי.
שיר המעלות, אשא עיני אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי.
עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ.
עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ.
אל ייתן למות רגליך.
אל ייתן למות רגליך.
אל ינום שומרך.
אל ינום שומרך.
הנה לא ינום ולא ישן שומר ישראל.
הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל.
אדוני שומרך, אדוני צילך, על יד ימינך.
אדוני שומרך, אדוני צילך, על יד ימינך.
יומם השמש לא יככה, וירח בלילה.
יומם השמש לא יככה, וירח בלילה.
אדוני ישמורך מכל רע.
אדוני ישמורך מכל רע.
ישמור את נפשך.
ישמור את נפשך.
אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך.
אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך.
מעתה ועד עולם.
מעתה ועד עולם. And the 23rd Psalm. Please join with me likewise in this one.
מזמור לדוד.
מזמור לדוד.
אדוני רואי.
אדוני רואי לא אחסר.
לא יחסר. בנות דשא ירביצני.
בנות דשא ירביצני.
על מי מנוחות ינהלני.
על מי מנוחות ינהלני.
נפשי יושבב.
נפשי ישובב. ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו.
ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות.
גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות.
לא יירא רע.
לא יירא רע.
כי אתה עמדי.
כי אתה עמדי.
שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני.
שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני.
תערוך לפני שולחן.
תערוך לפני שולחן.
נגד צורריי.
נגד צורריי.
דשנת בשמן ראשי.
דשנת בשמן ראשי.
כוסי רוויה.
כוסי רוויה.
אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני.
אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני.
כל ימי חיי.
כל ימי חיי.
ושבתי בבית אדוני.
ושבתי בבית אדוני.
לאורך ימים.
לאורך ימים. Key sentence. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Gam ki elef.
Late at night, I was walking down the Hermon. I walked down the holy mountain, down in the valley, in a very dangerous mission. And I couldn't think of anything else to say. Gam ki elef begeit salmoves. Even I walk in the valley of death, I don't fear evil, I know you are with me. You were singing my melody, so friends, whenever I sing this melody, I see this holy soldier walking down, all the angels, Abraham, Isaac and Jacob walking behind him, Mashiach in front, Elianobi on the side, 6 million behind them, join me softly. Gam ki elech begeh salema bet lo irara. Gam ki elech begeh salema bet lo.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say, we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
This is a GBU-57, known as a massive ordnance penetrator. At 20 feet long and weighing 30,000 pounds, it is the world's largest non-nuclear bomb and can destroy targets buried deep underground, earning it the name Bunker Buster. To destroy Iran's heavily fortified nuclear facilities, experts say these are the conventional weapons with the best chance of success.
This is a big sucker. It is called the Massive Ordnance Penetrator, which basically sums up what it is.
Here's why the MOP represents Israel's best chance at destroying Iran's facilities, and why it can't do it alone. The MOP is the largest bunker buster bomb in the US arsenal. It's designed to penetrate hardened targets and plow through almost 200 feet of rock before detonating. Due to the MOP's weight, they can only be carried by the biggest bombers, such as B-2s. One bomb is unlikely to burrow deep enough to hit Iran's nuclear facilities by itself.
The metal is going to melt at some point, and so it does have limitations in terms of how far it can penetrate, and that's why you may have to follow it up with multiple instances. You drive a wedge in, it expands, and then you continue to drive it in the second time, and each time it's more effective. In a sense, you're trying to create an earthquake. You're trying to crack the mountain and to channel that seismic energy down to make whatever is under there, whatever facility is under there, shake around a lot.
The MOP is equipped with advanced guidance systems, including GPS, to allow for accurate targeting. It is also fitted with a delayed fuse, which allows the bomb to explode after it has penetrated its target.
You're going to wait until it gets down in there before it blows up, because you want to maximize the energy. Every foot counts in order to get it deeper to burrow down and to have the effect.
Since it launched its campaign against Iran's nuclear program, Israel has damaged critical nuclear infrastructure and killed scientists. Iran has denied trying to build nuclear weapons and says its nuclear program is peaceful. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran already has enough highly enriched uranium to make around 10 nuclear weapons. Satellite images have shown damage at nuclear facilities, including Iran's largest enrichment facility, Natanz. But one key location remains unscathed, the Fordow fuel enrichment plant, where Iran produces highly enriched uranium. It's hidden in the mountains and is believed to be buried up to 295 feet below ground.
It's harder to hit deliberately so because the Iranians buried it under a mountain. Look, the U.S. put NORAD under Cheyenne Mountain. It's way down under a lot of granite and a lot of rock. And you want to raise the threshold for your adversaries to hit something. Sometimes it's just really useful to bury it.
While Israel has bunker busters, none of the ones in its arsenal are powerful enough to penetrate deep enough to hit Fordow.
This is why the Israelis probably need U.S. assistance. The Israelis have a lot of bombs, but they need things that can kind of crack the mountain and create a wedge to create the tremors and to create vibrations that will be helpful to destroy the facility.
In addition to lacking the weapons to destroy Fordow, Israel also lacks the heavy bombers. Its ally, the US, has both.
Fundamentally, there's a choice here to be made about whether it is in the U.S. national interest to take out Fordow, to take out the Iranian nuclear program once and for all.
We bring in the host of Special Report. Bret Baier is with us. Bret, thank you for being with us. I did have a conversation when you were breaking news live right here on Fox. I got some details as, again, you got on the air immediately. And the fact we had initially discussed at length and in great detail the issue of maybe 2 bunker buster bombs being needed for this Fordow facility. It ends up 6. It ends up that the Israelis had only gotten 75% of the other 2 nuclear sites that they had been attacking on a regular basis. And Tomahawk missiles, the president reporting tonight, they were totally, all 3 of them, obliterated. Incredible news. There's history tonight here.
Yeah, Sean, it's a historic night. It is, we'll see what the battle damage assessment is on the ground from Iran, but the Israelis are ecstatic. You saw that in the Prime Minister's statement saying that this is a pivot point, he believes, for the Middle East. The fact that there were 6 bunker buster bombs from those B-2s, 30 Tomahawk missiles from the U.S. submarines, hitting the Isfahan site, the Natanz site, and Fordow. You know, we talk a lot about Fordow being the most protected, and that's where a lot of those bunker busters were focused. But the Isfahan site, believe it or not, is also really deep, I'm told from experts who have been looking at it for years, and that's where they stored the highly enriched uranium. I think there's going to be a real question about what goes forward, what happens next.
Public celebration that sees a community of rabbis reciting those 4 Pesukim from Hallel. Here we go.
עודך כי אני דני ותהי לי ישועה עודך כי אני דני ותהי ישועה
Chief Rabbi of the spot.
Peter, many concerns, many questions tonight out of the White House, and we were seeing these pictures from the situation.
The other allies when he was in Canada as part of the we are now hearing some of the reaction to the president's words, and among the concerns obviously right now for all Americans, certainly for this administration, is the potential for some form of retaliation. Moments ago, we just heard from Kristi Noem, of course, the Secretary for the Department of Homeland Security. She said, "We will work unceasingly to protect the American homeland." She writes, "Thank you, President Trump." Separately, we are hearing from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a leading Democrat right now, who is reacting strongly to the president's comments and saying in effect that his strikes today amount to grounds for impeachment. Let me read in part what we're hearing from her in the form of a statement saying the president's, in her words, disastrous decision to bomb Iran without authorization is a grave violation of the Constitution. And she says the congressional war powers. He has, in her words, impulsively risked launching a war that may ensnare us for generations. She adds, it is absolutely and clearly grounds for impeachment.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith. אזרחי ישראל היקרים, אחיי ואחיותיי, ממבצע עם כלבי אנחנו השגנו יחד הישגים חסרי תקדים בתולדות ישראל. אתם זוכרים?
My dear brothers and citizens, during this war, Rising Lion, we have achieved extraordinary things unique in the history of our people.
שמתחילת המבצע, אני הבטחתי לכם שמתקני הגרעין של איראן יושמדו בדרך זו או אחרת.
From the outset, I promised you that one way or another, all Iranian nuclear facilities will be obliterated one way or another.
ההבטחה הזו קוימה.
That promise now has been fulfilled.
לפני זמן קצר, בתיאום מלא ביני לבין הנשיא טראמפ, ובתיאום מבצעי מלא בין צה"ל וצבא ארצות הברית, ארצות הברית תקפה את שלושת מתקני הגרעין של איראן, פורדו, נתנז ואיספהאן. בכך המשיכה...
The United States in a joint action in conjunction with Israel has wiped out those three important sites. And we'll move on from this.
ארצות הברית ביתר שאת ובעוצמה כבירה.
صدای حق و حقیقت است. آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلود استدیو غبارآلود استدیو
Oh, chilling video there. Caught on camera, Israel bombed Iran's national broadcasting company today. You just saw the reaction from the anchor live there on the air. Now, day 4 of the war between these two countries, and along with that bomb attack, Israel also sent a stark warning to the people in Iran's capital today.
The message is for hundreds of thousands of people in Tehran to get out ahead of new strikes. Here's Richard Engel with more.
Israel's air defenses are state-of-the-art, but not perfect. Iranian missiles are increasingly getting through. The Israeli coastal city of Haifa took in the advanced stages of negotiations with Iran when Israel attacked, did not appear to be frustrated by Netanyahu's preemptive war.
Sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
And there are growing suggestions President Trump knew more about Israel's plans than Washington is letting on. And NBC News confirming President Trump stopped Netanyahu from assassinating Iran's supreme leader, according to a U.S. official. Also coming to light, the extent of Israel's planning, that it had intelligence agents from the Mossad planted in Iran before the initial attacks.
An exclusive look inside Iran at some of the damage Israel has caused. CNN has a team on the ground, the first Western journalist inside Iran since the conflict began between Israel and Iran. This morning, our Fred Pleiken obtained access inside the state-run news agency in Tehran, which experienced a strike in the middle of a live broadcast on Monday. At least 2 people were killed.
We're inside the Iranian state broadcasting company, IRIB, which was hit by an Israeli airstrike a couple of days ago, and you can see the damage is absolutely massive. I'm standing in the atrium right now, but if you look around, this whole area has been completely destroyed. All of the offices, all of the technology that they have inside here, the broadcast technology, everything has been rendered pretty much useless. All right, so we're going to go inside the building now. They have told us that we need to be very careful because obviously there might still be unexploded parts of bombs in here or something like that. What we see here is the actual studio where an Iranian state TV anchor was sitting and reading the news when the strike hit. You can see here that is an anchor desk right there. And of course, when it happened, the anchor was reading the news and then all of a sudden there was a thud. The studio went black. At the beginning, she got up and left, but then later apparently came back.
Civilians as well as our military in the Mideast.
There is no sound for a moment. Iran was trying to promote for its own people's morale a few weeks ago. Look what we have waiting for the Israelis, for the Zionist Satan. And they were just showing all this stuff in their tunnel, and they were showing 2 of their main guys. And that entire facility, maybe because of this video, maybe it even helped Israel know exactly what to look for. But everything in this tunnel was destroyed, including those 2 guys. Those 2 were among the 11 commanders who got wiped out the first night. Easy come and easy go. This happened a few days ago also. So much happens, you miss some of it, but it's the holy city of Shalom, where made back. He was Iran's main link to Hamas. He made sure that Hamas was always rearmed, resupplied, had all the cash they needed. As I said, among all the other things that went on this week, this guy got knocked out this week too.
Thank you, Chair. The title of this so-called joint debate is a Christmas tree that perfectly demonstrates this Parliament's cluelessness when it comes to what's going on in the Middle East. Israel attacking nuclear...
If I understand correctly, this is the European Union meeting as a parliament with representatives from all the different European countries. And this guy, Sebastian Stadler, represents Holland. And he's listening to all these anti-Israel speeches in the EU. And this is what he has to say.
Debate is a Christmas tree that perfectly demonstrates this Parliament's cluelessness when it comes to what's going on in the Middle East. Israel attacking nuclear facilities and military targets in Iran isn't causing instability. On the contrary, by removing the offensive and world-destructive nuclear capabilities of the repressive Islamist and terror regime of the IRGC, Israel is stabilizing the region and safeguarding the world. For you'd better believe the Ayatollahs when they chant death to Israel, death to America and death to the West. It is their goal. It is their sole purpose. So the world should be on their knees thanking Israel for its heroic acts. Eastern European cities could easily be reached by the ballistic missiles of the IRGC. Europe should stand with Tel Aviv, the city that is now facing the enormous missile storm of North Korean technology. Europe and Ukraine should be thanking Israel now that drone and missile exports from Iran to Russia will likely come to a stop. But instead, the European Commission is investigating Israel's compliance with certain parts of the association agreement. For what purpose? Cancelling the agreement? Changing the agreements? You cannot do either of those. So what is your aim? The EU has the same association agreements with Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, and even an interim agreement with the Palestinian Authority, whose human rights standards are nowhere near those in Israel. Israel is a democratic country that upholds the rule of law and provides us Europeans with life-saving intelligence, health products, food and technology. Commissioner, Vice President HR, criticizing Israel or the Israeli government isn't necessarily anti-Semitism, but upholding the only Jewish state to different standards than other countries is. And colleagues, don't forget the hostages. Bring them home now. Thank you.
Not many patriots for Europe, but there are some.
The U.S. Supreme Court just made a major ruling. Here's why you should pay attention. On June 20th, the court ruled unanimously, 9-0, that Americans can sue the Palestinian Authority and PLO for terrorist attacks that injured or killed U.S. citizens abroad, upholding a 2019 law, per Reuters. The decision reversed a lower court which said such lawsuits violated due process for the defendants. Now, U.S. courts can hear cases linked to attacks anywhere from the early 2000s to the 2018 killing of Ari Fold. Why does this matter? This extends U.S. court reach into international incidents, beyond U.S. soil. It could influence foreign relations, affect how non-state actors are held accountable, and give victims a new legal avenue. Follow Clark Explained for rulings that reshape U.S. law and global justice.
We're now concluding with two songs, a little bit of Hashem Melech, and then a prayer for the armed forces of Israel. And with that, we conclude. Hashem Melech, God is King.
Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch, Leolam Vaed. 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 Hallel Hashem Elokim, והגדלנו בתודה.
אבותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, העומדים על משמר ארצנו וערי אלוקינו, מגבול הלבנון ועד מדבר מצרים, ומן הים הגדול עד לבוא הערבה, ביבשה, באוויר, באוויר ובים, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, ייתן השם את אויבינו הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם, הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה, נשלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם, ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם, ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון, ויקוים בהם הכתוב כי השם אלוקיכם ההולך עמכם להילחם לכם, עם אויביכם להושיע אתכם, ונאמר אמן.
I want to thank everybody for being here today. This really was a very special occasion, and it's been really from the news that we woke up to, or saw right after Shabbat was over. We're, of course, everyone talking about we're living in historic times, and these are historic times. There are difficult moments ahead. This is not over. They're going to throw everything they still have left at us and at America, and it's going to be, but either you do it now and you face now what they have, or you bring peace in our time like Neville Chamberlain, and you wait until they have nuclear warheads on those bombs and 10,000 instead of 1,000 ballistics, and then it's all over. So we live in the presence of a moment in time where, thank God, there are two leaders that knew it was time to stop talking and were willing to do it. And for all the media coverage about how there's a big divide and split between Israel and America at the worst possible moment, it turned out that too was just a ruse to convince the Iranians that they should let their guard down and they had more time